right now.
The year is 1717, the golden age of pirates. The ship, the Whydah, it's sailing north off the coast of Cape Cod. It was recently captured by pirates. On board that ship, 50 ships worth of treasure. But that treasure never made it to shore that night. It was midnight in early spring. A thick fog had formed all around the ship, blanketing the water. Now, the Whydah had been sailing with 3 ships, but they all lost track of each other in this storm. They made it out. The Whydah did not. It got caught in a violent nor'easter. Gale force winds at 70 miles an hour pounded the ship. As the storm intensified, so did the waves. Crushing, massive waves, some as high as 40 feet slammed the ship. Here on board, it was absolute chaos. Cannons broke from their mouths and slammed across the deck. The masts couldn't take it. They snapped one by one. The relentless storm drove the Whydah into a sandbar, breaking it apart. Then came a giant wave, one big enough to roll over what was left of the ship and split it into 2. And then down it went. What was left of the pirate ship was lost. But more than 250 years later, in 1984, the wreckage was found, spread across 4 miles, buried in the sand, some of it 50 feet deep. And that treasure, well, that's the stuff of legends. So far, thousands upon thousands of coins have already been found, making it the most diverse collection of coins ever recovered in a pirate shipwreck. Well, I am back on dry land, but these guys, they continue to jump into the ocean to collect more of what was on board that ship. It is the first pirate ship to ever be identified, the Whydah, and it's right off the coast of the Cape. What's been recovered from that sunken ship gives us a glimpse into life hundreds of years ago. Pirate life, when pirates roamed the waters all around us, truly, and filled their boats with treasure as well.
So glad you survived.
Yes.
Looked traumatic.
Barely.
What happened to the Whydah in the early 1700s became a childhood fascination for Barry Clifford.
Somewhere underneath all of the bedtime stories and the folklores, I knew there had to be something more behind that. There were so many stories about it. So I started investigating that when I was, about 12 years old, I think.
Barry heard the stories from his uncle as a boy, and he turned his captivation into a career.
I'm really sort of like a detective. I put all the math together and add things up, and it all added up. I knew what I was looking for, and I knew approximately where it was. When we found it, of course, it was a great day, and I could hardly believe that we had finally done it.
A true treasure hunter. His math, of course, was on point. X marked the spot, the final resting place of that ship, and all the treasure that was on board. Buried under 20 to 30 feet of sand, Barry found the Whydah back in 1984. Now, New England, of course, known for its storied history, but all the ships we know in Massachusetts typically associated with pilgrims, not pirates.
Most people don't realize it, but here in Provincetown, it was Pirate Central, and in Yarmouth, on Great Island, there were people who lived, a couple of miles away from where our museum is in Yarmouth, who was pirates. So this was a big pirate area back in the day.
Now, historians say the captain of the Whydah, Black Sam Bellamy, is such an important piece of this Golden Age story. They put him in the same ranks as Blackbeard.
Bellamy's crew were good at being pirates, okay? They captured more than 50 ships. Barry Clifford knows what was on board the Whydah, and that's thanks to trials for these pirates and then subsequent court records.
And one of the pirates testified, and again, this was recorded by a stenographer. He said 50 pounds was added to every man's share, there being 180 men on deck. The money was kept in bags, in chests, between decks. In bags, in chests, between decks. Very important. So that's 4.5 tons that was added to what they already had. The 52nd ship that they captured, according to primary source documents, had 400,000 one-ounce coins on board. That was added, that was after the Whydah was captured.
Barry's team has recovered more than 15,000 of those coins. They found cannons and other artifacts, a mission that's only possible with special technology on boats much more sophisticated than the Whydah.
We have a large vessel which is tied up right outside the window here with specialized equipment on it for picking up cannons and really large artifacts, like we brought a 13,000-pound concretion that we actually had to float to the surface with lift bags and tow it 25 miles back to Provincetown because it was too heavy to pick up with a crane.
It's the coldest of coldest cases. You know, if you think of these skeletons that have been recovered, they've been at the bottom of the ocean for over 300 years in this fascinating mystery.
Pretty cool stuff there. That's Dr. Claire Glynn. She says this, far and away, is the most unique case she'll work in her entire life. So she's a forensics expert. She works at the University of New Haven in Connecticut. And just a couple of years ago, back in 2018, she and her colleagues got a call from Barry's team. They had recovered skeletal remains. And they believe those were the bones of, now, I guess you can call them former pirates. Claire and the other forensic experts identified a small bone, now small, hundreds of years later. They believe it's a femur. And ever since, they've been working on extracting DNA to try to identify those remains. In part, they're trying to track down some potentially distant relatives and give them a final resting place as well. And that process has actually been continuing for years now, with 6 new skeletons found this summer.
We'll have to clean the bones, we'll have to sterilize the bones, we'll have to get rid of any sort of contaminants that are on them, sand them down, put them through multiple washings, and then try and extract DNA from within the bone.
Pretty amazing when you think of what they find and then to figure out what it is. Easy to know what gold is.
Right, exactly. Think of the legacy. Could you imagine if you found out today that you were related to a pirate? How would you feel?
I would feel that some of that gold should be coming to me. Listen, the work that she's doing, bringing history truly alive using that modern technology, the forensics there.
And just as exciting, she says, is the impact it's having in the classroom. It shows forensics is not all about crime.
Because people often just think of forensic science as homicides or sexual assaults and fibers and hairs and touch DNA, but really forensic science is very, very broad. And to be able to bring cases like this back into the classroom and teach our students, you know, this bringing history alive and working on such things really is an awesome experience for them.
Can get more kids and people interested in this as well. That history is now on display at the Whydah Pirate Museum in West Yarmouth. The exhibits tell the story of the ship, and according to the museum, they have the largest collection of pirate artifacts recovered from a single shipwreck anywhere in the world. And it's right in our own backyard. It is a unique place to visit. Go this summer, take the kids, or, you know, for anyone who wanted to be a pirate and X marks the spot, this is the place to go.
When I meet kids and I tell them the story about me dreaming about things, and, you know, it's okay to follow your dreams. Just follow them, never stop.
I was thinking people on the Cape on a morning like today, perfect rainy day activity too. Listen, that dream that Barry had as a little boy, hearing those stories and tall tales from his uncle about that pirate ship, the Whydah, well, it continues to this day, decades after he found that long lost ship. His team still doing work, still going out there and still recovering artifacts.
Well, there's still so much to uncover. You know, we're still finding things every day. We've only, even though it's been 40 years, we haven't brought up a majority of what's still buried, and we have another lifetime of work just excavating the ship.
Now, Barry estimates they have only recovered to this point, get this, only 10% of what was likely on that ship. There were some early reports in the mid-'80s when the ship was initially discovered and the gold that was initially pulled out, that his team has hundreds of millions of dollars worth of gold from that ship, and there's still 10% only. There could be a lot more still out there.
And he owns it.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. We looked into that as well, and it's not like, oh, let's go on a treasure hunt. JC and I will go out there next weekend and search for it. It truly is finders keepers.
Right.
Because he found it, it's his.
That ship is his. And also, by the way, everything he's bringing up, it's not just like large cannons. He was talking about like flakes of gold that they have to somehow contain and bring to the surface. So it's everything micro all the way to the big stuff.
I think a lot of people who might have wanted to be a pirate when they were a kid, this is a close second place, what he's doing.
Goonies.
Yeah. What he's doing right now, searching for treasure, finding it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, pretty cool stuff there.
One-eyed Willie.
All right, coming up on the 10, the damage is done from Fred, but Henri is on the way. Pete?
Very well done, Tim. Yeah, rain showers coming through overnight and into the early morning hours. We'll talk about the sun coming back out and the traffic already ahead.
And the wild new video of that chase on the South Shore with a suspect behind the wheel of a police cruiser. Stay with us.